Today we will review 6th grade math lesson 10.1. This lesson will cover how to represent equations in tables and graphs. Here's your I can statement. I can represent a situation using a table, equation, or graph and explain my methods to others. Let's start with our vocabulary for today's lesson. I encourage you to write this down in a notebook. Okay, so we have independent variable, dependent variable, and then the other thing I want to review is ordered pairs. So we have independent variable, then we have a dependent variable. So the independent variable, that is indicated in math by X on the table or the graph or in your equation. And it's also, the independent variable is also called the input. And then the dependent variable is called the output. And then the independent variable is independent, so it's not dependent on other variables. But the dependent variable, it depends on something else. For example, in like real life, for example, you can have a dependent variable, and then I'll have independent here. And let's say your test score. So whatever you get on a test, it's dependent on, let's say, how much time you study. Did you study for the test? It also is dependent on how much sleep you got. The other thing, it's dependent on what did you eat for breakfast? Did you eat a good breakfast? Did you have no breakfast? That will affect your test score. So that's a kind of a real life example of that. Then the third vocabulary for this lesson is ordered pairs. And ordered pairs is X and Y. Ordered matters, so you must make sure that the X comes first. And this is how you plot coordinates on a graph, which we will be doing in this lesson. Okay, here we go. I encourage you to pause this video and complete any of these problems on your own first, and then go back and watch the video. Many situations involve two variables in which one variable depends on the other. The independent variable is the variable who determines the dependent variable. For example, in the equation y equals 2x, the value of y is dependent on the value of x. Therefore, x is the independent variable and y is the dependent variable. An equation can be represented in tables and graphs. Likewise, you may be able to use a table or a graph to write an equation. If the data are continuous, you can draw a line to connect the points. If the data are not continuous, simply plot the points. Here's our first example. Just Notebooks is having a $3 notebook sale. Use a table or graph to represent the cost of 1 to 5 notebooks. So we know it says $3 notebook sale, so we know that's $3 per notebook. And then it says make a table to represent the cost of the notebooks. So we know if we buy one notebook here, if I buy one notebook, what would it cost? It would cost $3 because it is my independent variable, and then the cost is my dependent variable. So I would label these when you do all of your homework in Module 10, just so you get used to labeling everything, and then you're going to understand independent and dependent variables a little bit better. So independent, if I buy one notebook, it will cost me $3. So then the directions say, well, if you buy 1 to 5 notebooks, what's the cost? So I know if I buy 2 notebooks, it's going to be $6. If I buy 3 notebooks, it's going to be $9. If I buy 4 notebooks, it will be $12. If I buy 5 notebooks, it will be $3. And we know that because we know that everything is being multiplied by 3. So we know that the number of notebooks, which is your X, which is your independent, is being multiplied by 3, and that will give you your cost, and your cost is dependent. And then you also want to label your graphs as well as your tables. So we know that the X here is dependent, and we know the Y is independent. And we know here your X is number of notebooks. And we know your Y is your cost. So step 2 says write the ordered pairs to plot on the graph. Then let X represent the number of notebooks and Y represent the cost in dollars. So when you look here at your table and you see 1 and 3, it's written vertically, but we have to write that as an ordered pair. So the ordered pair here would be parentheses 1, 3. We always have to remember when we're writing ordered pair, the X comes first and then the Y. And then here you see if you buy 2 notebooks, it's $6. So then that ordered pair would be 2, 6. And if you buy 3 notebooks, that would be $9. And the ordered pair would be 3, 9. And you would just go ahead and finish the graph. Then it says plot the points on the graph. So if we have ordered pair 1, 3, I know that I start at the origin, I go over 1, up 3, I plot a point. And the next one is I go over 2, and then I go up 6. And then so on and so on. And it says, if the data is continuous, you can draw a line to connect the points on the graph. This one's continuous. I don't have a ruler with me right now, but you could draw a line there to connect the points because they're continuous. Okay, let's go to example 1. The equation is D equals 70t. That gives you the distance D in miles by a train in T hours. So T is the time and D is the distance in miles. We know that T is my dependent and the D is my independent. Complete the table to relate the distance you traveled from 0 to 5 hours. So that here is your time. Okay, so what I need to do is we're multiplying each value of time by 70. And that's going to give us the distance in miles. Because this is 70 times t. So now what I do is I take my time in hours, these given These are all given to you, and I plug it into my equation. So I do 70 times 0 is 0. So that would be D. Then I do 70 times 1 is 70. So that's how I fill in the chart. I use this equation here, and I plug in the values that they tell me to. And then I just keep going. Then 70 times 2 is 140. And then 70 times 3 is 210. And 70 times 4 is 280. And 70 times 5 is 350. Now it says plot the points on the graph, but I first need to write them as ordered pairs. So I need to write my ordered pairs from the graph, from this table here. So I'm going to look here. My first ordered pair would be 0, 0. And then I have 170. I have 2 140. 3 is 210. 4 and 280, and then 5 and 350. Okay, so now I can go ahead and plot my points on the graph. So I start and I first have 0, 0. Then I have 170, 2, 140, 3, 210, 4, 280, and 5, 350. And I can draw a line because it's continuous. So remember to label your X and Y. And again, this is dependent and independent. So this is our lesson for Module 10, Lesson 1 for Grade 6.